Hi there, I'm Gustav Dekerhoff, and this is my presentation on cybersecurity. First, I just want to talk about the introduction, and this is kind of like the table of contents, but first is the history of cybersecurity, and just kind of dissecting how it has grown from the small little aspect of a business to one of the most important and fundamental parts. Next is the case studies. What attacks have happened recently that we can learn from and increase our future development so we can stop and limit maybe those attacks in the future. Next is the current outlook. So what is the business looking like now? What tactics do we use against these hackers? And what the development might look like, or what trends we're going towards. Next is the industries leading the way in those cybersecurity methods. So what companies are using this in a very smart way. Next is the issues in increasing cybersecurity development. So what is limiting us from being our most potential selves? What is the reason that we haven't, ended cybersecurity threats as a whole? And then we look at future development trends. So no one can really tell what's going to happen in the future, but we can kind of tell you where the cybersecurity industry is heading towards and what is in development right now. So, history of cybersecurity. This is a very supplementary aspect of a business. It was not necessary, but it kind of started with banks and people that deal with more personal information. Those businesses really needed to have one because once the attacks did happen, they did need something. So it started with simple passwords. It grew to email verifications. I'm sure everyone has dealt with their fair share of both of those. Duo Mobile is one of them, though. The world is more online than ever, though. So computer viruses did start to pop up and they did start to affect customers. So that's when businesses were like, okay, we need to have a plan. We need to focus on this a little bit. And that's kind of when cybersecurity was born, was with the first viruses. But the current outlook, it looks something like this. So we have threats, and they include malware, phishing, and ransomware. And this isn't all of them, but it is a good amount of them. So malware is kind of a broad term. It's just it's short for malicious software. So it's not anything specific. It's more a part of the ransomware. But phishing is an online scam. So you get an email from the Nigerian prince asking for money. That would be an example of a phishing scam. And those ones are pretty dangerous for the not technologically advanced. Even though we've made those well known that those are a scam, it still happens enough to have a conversation about it. And then ransomware is just any sort of software that a hacker can put on a computer and have it affect your system. So again, malware is a subset of the ransomware. And then security breaches. Again, most companies are done online, or most businesses done online. So 76% of companies have claimed some sort of data loss, whether it be cybersecurity or just truly like a system failure. It is necessary to have a plan against these attacks, and I feel like it's definitely going that way. And if you're a company, especially financial, technological, healthcare, and you don't have cybersecurity, it's an issue. But then we look at the case studies. So Equifax data breach is one of the largest financially. This is, even though it's just one company, there was a data breach and millions of dollars of loss was happened because they took customers' financials and just ran away with them. So they settled for about $500 million, I believe, in 2020. So it was a while back, but still recent enough. But what I think the most interesting one is the NotPetya ransomware attacks. This one was an attack on Ukrainian companies. They after this whole hack happened, investigations found that it was due to Russians, and it kind of coincided with political unrest with Ukraine and Russia, and it kind of took Ukraine's focus away from the war, which is, probably what we're going to see if we have wars is just, cyber attacks, because it's going to stop everything, businesses, anything, and the loss can be immeasurable. But this eventually spread globally, and it being a global issue now from this attack made this a global fight against it. So there were more international laws on how to fight this and what your punishment might be, rather than, if someone in a foreign country does this to a United States system, we can prosecute them accordingly. But what industries might look for? So healthcare, you're going to look for ransomware attacks on hospitals. And this is the same thing with finance, is you're going to look for those ransomware, but specifically data breaches, because healthcare, you deal with very, very personal information. People just are going to steal that information, but more so with finances, they want money. So if you're a bank, you have to notice data breaches because you deal with such touchy subjects. Then retail, payment card information theft. It happens. I personally work in a retail store, and we've never had a payment card information theft. It would be in our system, but with a lot of these retail systems, they don't take much of the card information anymore. So it's really just the last 4 digits, maybe the security number. So having a secure system there is very important, because if my store were to get a data breach and they stole all the card numbers, I'm sure we would have a very hard time staying in business, because I don't think a lot of people would trust us. So then it's government. Espionage and data leaks are obviously the most important, and they deal with information that can hurt the government, security-wise and financially. So espionage is just it's probably one of the most important topics, is just because from a true country security standpoint, it's big. And then the leading industries, I picked 2 of them to highlight, but Google and Microsoft lead the technology industry, which is a Gmail user and an Outlook user. I do appreciate that they are being secure with their systems, because if they didn't, who knows what someone could do with my emails. And then JP Morgan and PayPal lead the finance industry. PayPal definitely is more used by the general public, but JP Morgan, they deal with multi-billion-dollar accounts. So them having all that and having to secure that is insane how secure that it is. And then, of course, as mentioned before, the U.S. Department of Defense, they're not known for their true security measures, but they're known for their counteractive measures against cybersecurity. But what's being done today? Let's see. So, encryption is the first one, and this is converting original documents into a ciphertext, and only authorized users are allowed to use it. It's kind of like an Enigma machine. And then endpoint protection. This is really to protect the not as technologically advanced people by securing laptops, desktops, and tablets. And this is stopping them from malware attacks, specifically ransomware attacks. And then AI machine learning is kind of what was used with the NotPetya. We learned where the attacks were going to happen and when, and then we were able to stop them and then catch them before it would even happen. But the challenges. The human factor is a big one, but I'd say the biggest 2 are these 2. Rapidly evolving threats hackers are changing their tactics daily, and they kind of have to flip on a dime, because if we shut down one thing that they can do, they have to find another way in, and they're going to do it as fast as possible. So we're always kind of on the back foot there. But I think the biggest one would be budget constraints. if you were a business owner and you were deciding whether to expand your business or increase your cybersecurity, you're not really seeing a return on investment on cybersecurity. There's no money is coming back to you. This is a sunken cost, and you're spending money on this to have a secure network or a secure system. So it's also kind of what you might say, just a big prevention method is you don't know if you're going to get attacked. So you're really spending this money on the off chance that you do. So a lot of business owners don't spend the money because they don't see the reward in it. But then lastly, it's the future developments. So no one can really tell where we're going to go, but we can kind of have a good guess. So predictive security analysis is kind of like the AI and machine learning that we're currently using. And this is most likely going to continue to use AI, but a more smart version of AI, because we're also developing that. But this uses historical data to predict how and when an attack may occur. And then the quantum cryptography. This is essentially encryption, but a more secure version. Same thing, it establishes a key, and the quantum aspect of it is very theoretical, so there wasn't much that I could learn about it, but because it's such an in-development technology. But this essentially, what it sounds like, is making an even more secure key where someone couldn't even look at it and try and decipher it. They just truly wouldn't be able to touch it. And then there's IoT security challenges. It's focused on the endpoint. So we're kind of seeing the same things, just a better better version of it. So that's what's really interesting, is we're not changing much. We've kind of gotten to a good point with it. We just are doing better on ourselves. But I just want to say thank you for a great course. I really enjoyed learning all the technology aspects of it. I had a great time doing Excel and Access. So thank you.